Good
And
afternoon,
we are
everybody.
live.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody
Good
from
afternoon.
everywhere in the world. And good afternoon to my co hosts today, and a very, very warm welcome. My goodness, it is fantastic to be back here, fantastic to see everybody and to interact with everybody, and for all our followers who've been waiting for us to release something and talk to you. We are back. And so, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and I hope that you will really enjoy the talk that we have for you today. Now, just before we jump straight into our juicy topic, you may have been asking yourself, where did these guys go? Where have they been? And now, what we've been doing over the past few months is talking, planning, strategizing, and coming up with ways that we can be more enthusiastic, more interesting, bring you more relatable topics, but most importantly, building on to our team so that you could get more diverse points of view. And we're excited today that one of the new members of our team is joining us for this bottomless chatter. And so I'd like to ask just to say, Dumbe, you can wave, and I'm sure people will be excited to hear more from you as we keep going with our talk. So, yes, you're very welcome. And Osaro, you're welcome. What would you like to say to everyone now that we've given them an opportunity to miss us?
It's been an absolute it's an absolute pleasure to be here again in this very sunny morning. Um, and yeah, it's been a long time. It's been like a year, but
Mm.
it's just for us to get back better, stronger, more reorganized, and more juicy. All right. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be back, and I'm happy that I can see these faces again, all on the same platform to do what we know how to do best when we get together. So yeah, to our viewers and our teaming followers, um, it's good to be back with you, and I do hope that you're gonna enjoy our more rebranded and refreshing selves on these different platforms. Kudos to you all. All right. Yeah, that's it, Valerie.
Thank you, Osaro. Thank you. And Madam Eno. It's great to see you. It's good to be back. What would you like to say to our people?
Yeah, it feels good to be back, everyone. Our apologies for being away. It's been quite an eventful start of the year for me, and I can say for Valerie and Osara as well. That's why we couldn't meet for me. However, we are here bigger and better, and with some of the additions that you'll get to see. We have Dumbe with us and some others that will be coming in very soon. So thank you once again for your support, your engagement, your follow, your shares. Like I would always say, please share this broadcast. We'll appreciate that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Eno. And Dumbe, would you just like to say something quick and brief, even if it's just hi, as we get ready to jump into the topic today? All right, I can hear you, but it's a little bit, you're sounding a bit far away. So I'll say that as we move forward, you may have to speak a bit louder or move closer to the microphone so that you can really be heard very well. So for everybody who's with us today, just good afternoon and thank you for jumping in. And so we have 1 hour and we're going to make it tight because there's so much that we're going to talk about and it's really interesting. So today our topic is around family. And I think that's something everybody, everywhere in the world, we have family and we relate with our family in different ways. So today, being African, we want to talk about the African family because we have noticed that it's changing. And so, what we're going to talk about is the transition from our communal bonds, which used to bring us all together, to what seems to be happening today, where more and more people are living isolated lives. So, the first question, and I think I'll touch on this and then we'll get lots of points of view from my co-hosts, is this discussion came up when Eno and I were having a chat about what it feels like to get phone calls from family you've not spoken to for a long time. And we'll dive into that as we go into the talk. But what came out of that conversation is asking ourselves, why is the structure of the African family changing? Now, we know that we have what we call our nuclear family, our brothers, our sisters, our mother, our father. Then we go into our extended family, where we introduce our cousins and our uncles, our aunties, grandparents, and the like. And you'll find that as we've been moving on in years and with time, the bonds in both the nuclear family and the extended family are not as close as they used to be. So much so that now it's actually possible for somebody not to know all the members of their extended family. You just don't know them, you've not seen them, you wouldn't be able to recognize them. And this points towards a crisis in terms of the African family structure. Something is going on and it should not be going on. So, here, as we look at this topic today, is this something that we should be worried about as Africans? Our families are changing, and that growth and communal bond that we used to have is not as strong as it was before. Or should we look at what's happening now and say, you know what? Times are changing. We are all evolving. It is what it is. We need to figure out how we're going to evolve as families with these changing times. So, as we kick off from there, I think I'll just jump into and ask any of my co hosts to give their comments. What do you think in the families that you're in or what you've observed? Do you believe that these family structures are actually changing and we're sort of moving away from communal support to isolation as time moves on? So, yes, yeah,
Well,
thanks,
I
Osaro.
would like to say something here. Yeah, and I mean, thank you for that introduction, Valerie. This
Mm,
is like a ticking time bomb when we look at it in the African context. And I speak from a first person experience. Privileged to come from a family that is closely knit. I'm talking about the nuclear family. But I can't say so much of that when I'm talking about the extended family. Although I'll place myself in the context of extended family and how closely knit it is, high above the average. And I believe it's this average we're talking about today. Um, One thing that stands us apart as a continent or people is that together we have this shared value system that is rooted in family, our culture, our ethnicity. You talk about even our language and our food, our eating pattern, everything is something that is rooted in strong family cultures. And so this topic in itself shows that there is an emergency at hand that we need to attend to. Having said that, as a unit, I do believe in your assertion and in this topic that we are experiencing eroding family values that calls for attention and calls for um, the needed intervention so that we can continually benefit from the family unit that has shaped our lives as Africans. So, yes, in many ways, in many experiences, we don't have statistics now, but I do believe and agree that we are experiencing eroding family values and the closely knit system that has been placed in our structure as family is being eroded at a pace that has called for attention and intervention. So, yes, we're giving it the attention that it deserves. And I'm happy to be part of this conversation going forward.
Thank you, Osaro. Thank you for that. And yes, yeah, I think we are heading towards a crisis. I agree that families are changing, but I'm glad to hear that your nuclear family, you guys are tight. You know, that's something that is definitely worth noting and worth holding on to, you know.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and for you, Eno, what's your experience like when it comes to a shift in your family structure, or how it's coming together?
All right. Like you rightly said, we had a conversation prior to, picking this topic. It shows that there's actually a situation that we need to address. Yeah, when we look at the time of our grandparents or our parents, let's may not go too far because I didn't know what happened in the time of my grandparents per se. But in the time of my parents, I recall vividly that we could have anyone just walk into the house from, I stay in the urban area, and then those from where I come from, the place I come from, come in and, oh, uncle, you are here, welcome, and everybody's excited. You are offered something to eat, something to drink, and even a bed to stay before they start asking you, why did you come? Now, the situation now is not the same. When you come all the way from the village without telling people you're coming, there's going to be this reaction like, why didn't you tell us you're coming? You are not going to be, received with that warmth. The way our parents would have treated those that would come from the villages to the cities. Now, just to say like the doctor said, our culture is gradually being eroded. I think, and the things that are factors responsible for this is westernization and maybe some trends. I will talk about this in depth later. There's this thing we call the village people syndrome. The village people are being vilified. So when you have extended relations in the village area, I don't know if you can hear me clearly. You have an extended relations in the village area. There's this village people thing where they think the village people are going to be doing some kind of harm to them. So yes, this is one of the factors that we really need to talk about. Uh, for me, I don't believe that village people are going to do anything to me. I believe in having a well, what word would I use? A put together, well neat, extended family kind of setting. I like that personally for myself. I prefer. I was telling Valerie the same thing. When I watch these Z word movies, I see people from India. They have this. I don't know if it's still the reality now, where they have extended family setting. You have the father, the mother, the grandfather, grand uncle, great uncle, everybody just staying together, having one family business, having and eating from one pot and all that. It's beautiful for me. So I'll just leave it for some other persons to come in with their own opinion on the topic.
Yeah, wow, thanks for sharing that. And you remind me of, yes, when I've not even thought of that, the mentality that we have living in the city of our relatives visiting from the village. Because I think the same challenge that you're facing with people, how they're thinking about these visitors, it's similar to what we have here, in my experience here in Kenya, where when somebody is coming, rather than have open arms, we begin with distrust. So you sort of don't trust their motives, their reason. There's a little bit of fear they might never leave. So there is, it begins like that. So that's what the visitor walks into. And that warmth of family is then missing from the interaction, because you either don't trust them or you're waiting for them to leave, which is not great. So I can see Dumbe. I know you might have a network challenge. If you can speak, although not can't put your camera on, that's okay. But it would be great to hear from you, Dumbe, if you're facing something similar within your family structure. Yes, from where you are. So, Dumbe, what we'll do, whenever you can speak, just unmute and I will jump back and ask you the question. So, whenever you're ready, you just unmute and we'll definitely address your point of view. All right. So, yes, this is what we're looking at, guys. This is our families. And as we sort of move on to why it is like this and what we're experiencing, um, I think there is something, and yeah, I'll touch a bit again on what Eno you've said in terms of generational shifts. What is happening in terms of our generation, which most of us are here, I think, are millennial slash Gen Z, vis-a-vis our parents' generation and their parents' generation. And maybe Osaro, what you can help us understand to begin with is these shifts and where they came up from, our importance today. So I'll ask you if you can give us some insight on that.
All right, yeah. Although I see Dumbe is back with us, but perhaps
Ah,
she
yeah,
can
yes, she's unmuted.
give her opinion.
Yes. Yeah, Dube, I was asking in terms of family structures changing, what it's like for your family and what changes might have occurred in terms of your nuclear versus extended family.
Okay, for me, just trying to. However, in my family, there were lots of changes, a lot of things that influence our world. For instance, economic stability affects the family because when we look at the former society, the farmers and
Hi,
cultivators,
Dumbe. If you can hear us,
there are
can you
development of
tune up the audio
technology.
a bit? We are struggling to hear you, Dumbe. Can you hear us? Can
All
you
right,
speak into
that's
your
not a problem.
microphone or
Dumbe is
increase
on
the
mute.
volume? The volume is not so good.
Dumbe is on
Yeah.
mute. So I'm going to attempt to unmute her in case she hasn't noticed that. All right, she's unmuted. You can go ahead. Yeah, I can hear you faintly, but let's see if that improves now. All right, Dumbe. It's fine. Let me go ahead and respond to the question Valerie
Thank you.
asked earlier on. Valerie, is it okay to do that now?
Yes, yes.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, Dumbe, for that feedback. I will put at the top of one of the factors that influences this discussion. I will put at the top globalization, and I'll tell you why I'm saying so. You see, we're living in a world right now that it is increasingly globalized. And what I mean is that we have no barriers to movement now. You got people moving from Europe to Asia, from Asia to Africa, from Africa to just all over the continents. And with such movements, migrations, comes acceptance of new norms, new values, new traditions, new languages, new food, new way of life, dressing. And it's like a mix that picks up different values, but at the same time waters down the values that you started off with. Um, People, previously we used to define home as a housing unit. So perhaps when somebody asks you, where is your home? You're most likely, and I'm talking about in the time past, in our parents' time, grandparents, even in our time when we started growing up, Gen X. So you can relate to that if you're in Gen X too. Um, you would easily say, my home, and you will talk about your location, and then start to talk about the people that comprise of that home. But let's fast forward till now. How many of us can truly answer that question and say, this is my home? It's it's because there's been a lot of movements, even within a country, within the continent, and intercontinental. So there are shifts. So now home is actually defined as a place that you're most comfortable in, or where you currently reside, which can change anytime. So because of those factors we've talked earlier on, economic factors, political factors, just a ton of other factors. You got people moving, educational factors. You got people moving to other places. And with such movements comes adaptation to new value systems. And just to put this in context, imagine as someone who is from the traditional Asian society, which I want to believe in many aspects closely aligns with the African conventional family system, and then moving to an European or a Western style family system where it's all man for himself as soon as you clock 18. You can make your own decisions, whether it's for the family or not for the family, it's your own decision. That can be challenging in terms of, okay, what do I imbibe so that I don't see myself as an outsider to this new society? Because it will shine like a bright light that, hey, this person is different. So you're trying to see what you can adapt, what you can imbibe, and what you can leave out. And that in itself affects in in many ways how your own family values are diluted. And then when you have this coming in droves, in millions of people who have migrated and then imbibe these different values, you can see the multiplier effect. It's just all over the place. New value systems, new family orientations, and it can be a struggle trying to remain glued to that traditional, conventional family ethos that we were brought up in. So, in a summary, I will put globalization at the top of that list. I know there are a number of other factors which I do want to believe some other of our panelists will be touching on. So let me put a pause to my contribution on this.
Oh gosh, thank you, Osaro. I mean, I'll touch on what you mentioned and what has stood out for me. Something that clicked is migration, as you've mentioned. How many of our family members have migrated from our home countries and gone to live and work in different countries? We've done the same. We've gone to study, to live, and to work. And it's true, you get out there and there's no family structure. The family structures you encounter are completely different, and you have to adapt. And I think also the mindset of when we come back from being in a foreign country, we've adapted and almost told ourselves that we've adapted to a system that was better. What's out there is better than what's at home. And so now it's getting other people to adapt to your new system of isolation. And it makes it easy to stand in it because, I mean, you've had a different experience. So there's quite possibly that as well that's impacting the way our families operate. We have moved in and out of our own societies much, much more. And in doing that, those bonds that used to really hold us when we were all together have possibly weakened as well. So yeah, that's sort of what came to mind as I was listening to you speak. And maybe now what I'll do is come to you, Eno, because Eno, I think maybe you can give us some insight on those traditional African family structures that we're talking about that we've shifted from. So maybe if you can tell us a bit about those, and we can see then how this shift has continued to occur.
All right, Valerie, please can you repeat what you just said?
Oh, I was saying, as we move
I'm
forward, maybe you
struggling
can
with the
let us
network,
know.
so you're breaking
Oh,
kind of.
okay, I'll say it again. As we're moving forward, we need to look back and see what are the traditional African family structures that we've moved away from. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, our traditional African family structures. I hope you heard me, Eno. You seem to have frozen.
Oh, okay. I have frozen because because of the weather, the network is not really stable here.
Mm.
I think ask me my opinion. That is, as a structure for the African family. I mean, where I come from, I think I got it to that point, and I think the concluding part. Hello, Valerie. Can you hear me?
You're breaking up, but I'm trying to catch what you're saying.
It's a very. All right, Valerie. Can you hear me, Valerie?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, I can read your lips. I can read your lip. I wish I can have someone just post the question somewhere in the chat so that I can flow because it seems you can hear me, but I can't hear you.
Oh,
Whatever it is,
okay.
you're asking what the current African, I mean, family structure looks like from
The
my perspective,
traditional
right?
one. Yes.
Okay, the traditional one. Okay,
Yes.
currently or in the time past.
In time past,
You
and
mean
it's
currently
looking
or in the
at
time past?
in the time past to see
Oh,
uh,
okay.
how white was so strong.
It's looking like what we see, a well knit, I mean, arrangement where everybody could, you could have those big compounds and have people have their own, I mean, quarters to themselves in a big compound where you can have aunties and the family, uncles and the family. Yeah, I was home last month. Was it last month? Yeah, I was home last month. We still have this tradition of taking the dead back home. When we have a relative that dies in the city, we take them back home and bury them in the compound. So we have a big compound where everybody, I mean, it's a common compound for the room. You are free to. That's been the traditional, structure we have. here in, I mean, my part of the world, in Nigeria, in the southern part of Nigeria. For those of you who watch Z World, like I would always use that as my example. You see where people live together, the uncles and the aunties and everything. We had that in the traditional system here in Nigeria. Together as one family. Together as one family. Yeah, but right now we do not have much of that. I think it's been watered down because of westernization, like I said earlier. We do not have much of that. And I think because they are looking for greener pastures, lots of people have migrated out of the villages. They've gone to cities and other countries as well. So when you go home, you are not met with, this large crowd of people that, hey, welcome from the city with, so much joy and, happiness and all that. It's not as warm as we used to have it in those days. When you bring back to the village, who would welcome you, ask you questions, who would be thrilled to see you, having expectations, what did you bring from the city? And then you're going back home, you are getting lots of things too from the village back to the city. It was beautiful, but we've been robbed of this kind of dynamics now because of westernization and migration. Yeah.
Oh wow, thank you, Eno. Thank you for sharing that because yes, one of the things I've picked about that is our family was not simply the people who the people who were, we bore us, if I can say that, but it was also societal depending from where we came from. So our family was community, and it was community that extended beyond just our home. But yes, there is a family home where everybody knows they can come to and they can congregate and they can meet. And that's something that is very deeply rooted in our values. Even here in Kenya, when somebody passes away, we take them home, which is our family home in the village, so that we're able to bury them at home. So there's still that structure that is very strong, especially amongst my tribe, the Luya tribe in Kenya. It's still very strong till today. For Sarah, what would you like to add just to the points that Eno has made?
All right. Anna hit it spot on, by, complementing the point that I made earlier on. You know, sadly, we can't change this. When I say we can't change, I'm talking about um, the globalization of the world. We can't dictate how people move around, not at all. But we can be an advocate there to help people. All right. Beyond educating people, we can help people understand how our traditional African family system um, was a pillar for us. And you know what? I'll put this in context. Let's try to paint this scenario. There are many countries around the world, in the Western countries, and even in many other Eastern countries, that when a parent grows old, the mother and the father, you find maybe the kids or the parents themselves organizing how they'll be put in care homes, homes that are commercialized and offer care, all right, geriatric care to these old people. And what that means is that they're being taken care of people who are not family, who are paid to take care of, to do such jobs. And you will tell that, of course, this is not making excuses, that the touch that they get would not be something close to what a family member will give. And this is a big industry. The care homes are a big industry in many countries. And this is because of the vacuum there. Let's bring it back home. This is not what we are used to back home in Africa. And when I talk about Africa, I know we've got different countries, about 55. But I would like to say that it's something similar happening everywhere. We look after ourselves. It is, and Ubuntu. You reminded us of it. Okay, I am because we all are. It is community upbringing. All right, and I did have this conversation, something similar with um, a couple of people, and even with my wife recently, about how in Africa the community raise a child because everybody understands the shared values and the value system that we operate in. But that's not so in some other places. So I'll give you an example. I can leave my child in the care of extended family or even neighbors, and I will be sure that they will uphold the same values that I want to imbibe in my kid. But that cannot be said in many other places. It is a hustle trying to protect the moral values and the family tradition that you want to pass on to your kids because it's something you have to do alone. The society is not doing it for you. Nobody's going to do
Mm,
it. They're going to see your child erring or doing or contributing to the bad statistics and look away. Nobody's going to care. But you and I know that this is not what we're made of. It's not part of our DNA originally. And so it is a struggle, it is a hustle. And for many people who do not have the capacity to withstand that hustle, they easily giving away and knowingly erode that values, the family value that we're used to. Now,
mm,
take a look at a family who is family in name and by birth, but they are dispersed around the world.
mm,
They ca- I mean, yeah, technology helps us to look out for each other, but that tales by moonlight. You sit down and you talk. You look forward to December. Everybody comes together and have fun together. May not be so possible this time for many people, given current realities, and that in a way has contributed to what we're discussing today.
mm.
I'm excited about getting to the solution part so that I can hear from you all and get to know that perhaps there are some solutions that we can put out there for people to, I mean, just apply and make their own reality better in the face of constant struggle. All right. So, in a nutshell, yeah, Eno just reiterated the point that I was making, and sadly, that I'm saying again that it is a reality that we cannot run away from. It's, it's, I would say it's on the decline, but we can slow down this decline by proper education, advocacy, and constant reminder about such value system.
Oh,
Yeah, that's it from me,
yes.
Valerie.
Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry, you touched on something that for me is it's so crucial. And you've mentioned it and clarified it for me. It comes into what you mentioned about moral values and our children. And when I look at my childhood, it was very easy for, let's say, my mom to leave me with my auntie extended periods of time, without concern, because we all, or they all held, I think, the same moral values. But also touched a little bit on what we would be experiencing when it came to discipline and what that looks like for different children. So I'm not sure if I'm frozen or if it's a you who's frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, at some point
Well,
you were frozen, but I can hear you
okay.
clearly.
Okay, I think it's a network issue, but if you can hear me, then it's fine. So yes, now when I look at today's time and I look at my child and I want to leave my child with somebody, now the question of moral values becomes very important. What do they believe in the house? What is it that they're going to speak about? What are they watching on television? What is my son going to eat? Because food has changed. It's not as healthy as it used to be or as natural. So you don't want maybe your child to be given a lot of sweets, and then you get a hyper child when you get back. When somebody puts on the television, if they don't have parental controls, your child could be very shocked by what it is that they come across. And for many people, they might not see it as a big deal, but for you, it's something that's very important. Like, you might not want your child to be exposed to certain things. And so there are actually barriers today that we need to think about even before we say, all right, this is where I'm going to have my child, and make sure that it's with family and they're going to be all right. And I think what's happening today more and more is, rather than looking at family as the place to be to bring up our children as a community, and also because we have more money available, then we outsource. We will look for a daycare where we can give them instructions and tell them, do this, do this, do this, and you have to do this because I'm paying you. And then there we have someone who's taking care of them. In some cases, we will hire a nanny or get childcare and put up cameras around our homes so that we can watch from where we are what's happening with our children, and use that as a monitor, to make sure that they are getting sort of a level of care that we want them to get. And I think that goes even deeper in separating families, moving away from that communal growth where your auntie is the one who taught you not to do something, and moving more towards the isolation. And I think also a barrier in that is that as a person, you don't know everything. A lot of us as parents, we're learning as we're getting going along. So every child is like an experiment. The first one, you didn't know what you were doing. The second one, it got a little better, but you're still testing, and you keep going like that. But if we had the whole family there, then you'd be able to learn from each other's wisdom, and it could make a big difference. And yeah, that brings me, Osara, I want to veer you in another direction as well, in terms of nuclear families breaking down. Nuclear families breaking down. And what I think I've observed is, when the nuclear family is when you're growing up as children, you're fine. There's a lot of love between each other. If it's sibling rivalry, it's basic sibling rivalry, it's there. As children get older and parents pass away, cracks begin to form, particularly when it comes to inheritance and property and things like that. So maybe you can touch on that, and hopefully Eno would be able to touch on that as well. What has been your experience, or what have you observed when it comes to that part of families moving from communal bonds to isolation?
Okay, yeah, I've experienced that.
Oh, sorry, you're muted, Osaro.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are. Yes.
Oh, all right, great. Okay. So I was saying that I have actually seen this happening, you know, and yeah, that's my daughter.
Oh, she's very
So
welcome to. Yes.
yeah, well, it's family, right?
Yes.
So uh, you see, I don't know about the education system in Kenya, all right, but I will talk a bit about the education system in Nigeria, just a little bit. And like I've been very actively involved in the education system in Malaysia and the United States and India. And I can tell you something that I noticed. And I'd like to link that to what pertains back home and try to identify it as part of the problems. Okay. Uh, See, back home in Nigeria, in our elementary, middle, and high school, that's the secondary school, like we call it, there's this thing that happens. I don't know if it still happens, but you find out that at the end of every term, semester, there is an examination. And after examination in all the subjects, 8 or 9 or 10 or 11, there is a collation of the scores, the marks, and then each student is placed on a position. So you have a student come in first position, you have a student come in second position, third position, fourth position, and so on. Now, that creates a lot of competition. Ordinarily, it should be a healthy, positive competition, but when you do that for kids, it does have a way of creating rivalry within the competition. And so you find out that, and I can tell this about Nigerians, even when we leave, you hear a lot of Nigerians doing well outside of Nigerians. Okay, so there's a bit of both sides, but you hear a lot of Nigerians doing well. But amongst that, you still hear that there are some not doing so well. And part of the reasons is that there is that competition that people have transported from back home to um, whatever guest country they are in. Now, I would like to say that the new wave of discontent, disunity in the family, sorry, is closely related to this picture that I painted. You find that there's sibling rivalry, and some of it might be traced to competitiveness, competition. Who's going to be here first? Who's going to do better first? Who's going to make the first $1 million first? And so, and sadly, this is the truth, right? We're here to tell the truth. So I would say, given uh, that challenge sort of contributes to this problem in many nuclear families we've seen. It's the rivalry that has been born largely as a result of who's going to be first. Yeah. And so I was having this conversation because it struck me that it's quite different in many other places. They do exams at the end of the semester, but there's no position. Who's first, who's second, which I think is healthier.
Mm.
So it has to start with this reorientation, change in, I mean, we've got strong, good value systems, but we have to admit that some of it has to evolve. We pick up something better and use it to refine what we have. And that gives us something, more tangible to withstand the changing tides. Okay. So I started this response with saying that I don't know if the same pertains in Kenya and if it's similar in terms of the education system, but it would be lovely to hear from you, Valerie, given your experience in the different places you've been. I mean, basically, also if it pertains to Kenya, and if that does contribute to what we talk about regarding the nuclear family. Yeah.
Oh, yes. You reminded me, yes, when we were growing up, you wanted to be number one. We all had numbers. You wanted to be number one in class. And a lot of us were measured with our class numbers against our cousins, our brothers, our sisters. And there was as a family, and it's so interesting you mentioned that, because as a family, I know if I'm a member of this family, we do not come out at the bottom of the class. It's going to be bad, not just for you, but for the family as a whole. You don't want to be around your family and your uncles ask you, what number were you in class? And you're like number 20 out of a 25-person class. So, yes, there was that where it was almost a sense of pride for you and for your family if you were in those top positions. And it does bring enmity for those who might not necessarily be academically gifted, then you start having a little bit of a rivalry with other members of your family and feeling a kind of way about them. So, yeah, I think I can also agree that it can trace back to that in Kenya as well. And seeing Madame Eno, you are now visible, and hopefully we can hear you better. If you'd like to just add your thoughts on this part of our segment where we're looking at where these sibling rivalries begin and how they impact the family. All right. I think you're shaking your head because of network challenges. So it's all right. Anytime that it gets clear, and you're able to just jump in and share. And goodness, this topic is one of those that we definitely need to be able to talk over several sessions because there's so much that we wanted to cover I don't think we would be able to cover today.
That's
But
right.
what I've
That's right.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to do a part two where we talk about what are the consequences of the isolation that people are experiencing, because it's worth talking about that. This session has been so rich in looking at where it is these challenges are coming from. And one of the things, maybe before we finish up our hour today, is we can actually talk about two things I think that strain communal bonds and deepen isolation, which is money and culture.
Yeah.
And I think money has a big role to play
Valerie, can
with.
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Eno. Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I can
Am
hear
I
you.
audible?
You're audible. You can go ahead. You're audible. Yes, you're audible, Eno.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, the glitch, the network, but I will just jump in. I think I could hear when you asked about the situation we're having now, what we're talking about, where we have people not closely relating as families. Now, while we were talking, I think I was having a conversation as well with someone who just jumped in to see me. And like what the doctor was saying, they speak for Nigeria. They speak for Nigeria is one major factor that is making people to run away from everyone, including families. We've had cases, unfortunately, where the children or other family members are not even safe with just isolate themselves and want to be on their own. So yes, what is causing the insecurity is economic issues as well. um, when there is economic downturn, humans will try to do everything to survive. Unfortunately, crime is one of the things that, I mean, crime here in Nigeria, we hear lots of cases of ritual killing, organ, what they call all this, what they call that. It's a real thing happening in Nigeria, and I think other parts of Africa or other parts of the world. We do not want our loved ones. I mean, the immediate loved ones, those in our nuclear families, to be affected by these things, and so yes, molestation, child harassment, and all that. Of course, you wouldn't want that child to be around that family member in a way like that, where a child, the daughter, is being, abused by the father. an uncle or a son by an auntie or something like that. So, in order to, avoid these happenings, people just tend to stay on their own with their daughters and their sons and just forget about everybody. Is what is happening. You do not know when somebody will be tempted because of lack of finances to compromise and then sell out a family member that is responsible for closely knit extended families to break apart.
Yes, and oh gosh, you've touched on something so important, and that is as we've moved on in time, increased instances of young children being molested, and that being a concern because we know that these things normally happen within the families, and it becomes difficult to talk about and to address. And I'm not sure whether this was something that was very prevalent in the past or it's something that's more of modern times. But it definitely is, I think, a valid concern that many people have. Mm, yeah. All right. Okay. So, what about because now we've talked about the challenges that we face in terms of safety, in terms of changing dynamics in the family, people moving to different areas, and we're just about to touch on money and culture, and how that is changing. We've, I think, touched on culture a little bit when we talk about migration. As we move out and come back in, we come back in with different ideas and then impart those ideas on our families, and it can further this sense of the breaking of the bond. And economically, Osara, maybe you'd like to add something about just the economics of changes in fortunes and money and what that means for our African family bonds.
All right. Well, just coming up from what Eno said, have we noticed the spate of suicide that we see the stories in the news, on social media, or the conventional news outlets? It's more than what we used to hear of in the past. Yeah, I know that we have social media to help us, hear more of these things, but I want to believe that the statistics are a lot much more than they were many years ago.
Truly.
Why is this things happening? I mean, if someone is depressed or someone is owing huge sums of money, and I'm giving examples of some of the things that have been implicated. Of course, once the dead is dead, it's just speculations, right? But I'm saying some of the things, the speculations, depression, economic downturn, owing large, huge sums of money, and just a myriad of other, excuses. If we had a closely knit, strong family like we used to have it, you, I believe more than half of these suicides will not happen. People will have somebody to talk to. People will have people to fall back on. People will have people that have their backs, and that's what family is for. So this is reality staring us in the face that there's a vacuum, and it's a family vacuum, and that's giving rise to this spate of suicides that we hear of. Now you talk about the economic fallout. It's enormous, and to view it directly, only directly, will be to view just a part of it. There's a lot of indirect effects that are taking its toll on, from just this influence of changing family values and realities. So I'll give examples. When the kids or the offsprings of a particular aged parents are not there for them anymore. It calls upon the state, the community to jump in. That in itself has put a strain on the state or on some other people. It's one of the indirect effects. Other indirect effects has to do with the public health challenges that comes with mental health. Mental health decline is a reality that is staring us in the face. So that indirectly puts a strain on us. And in myriad of ways, when people do not, when there's no cohesion with people amongst people, the disunity in itself is just like you see. There used to be this analogy that if you have a single broomstick, what can I get here now? You know this broomstick, right? It's easy to break it, but if you have a bunch of it, it's unbreakable.
Yes.
It's unbreakable. Now, let's look at this together. Put this in perspective. If we have family together, put resources together, we'll achieve more than individually. Everybody gets the broomstick and starts to break it individually. That's going to be putting more on resources.
Mm.
And so that in itself has put a toll, economic toll on everybody. And the reality, like I say, is staring us in the face. Yeah. So yeah, that's a lot there, but let me stop here. Okay.
Thanks for sharing that, Osaro. My goodness. You know what's interesting about this conversation? We say one thing and then it opens up the doors for so many different points of view that can be brought in and explored. Before we jump into that, I'd just like to ask Eno if there's something that you'd like to add on to what Osaro has just shared.
All right, Valerie. As we talk, I'm thinking, uh, if this is a major concern, the change in the family dynamics, I mean, the extended family dynamics, I think we should let people know the I don't like to use the word caution. Try to change our perspective and review the way we relate with our extended family. A lot of things happen. We see situations that is not what is acceptable in our culture in the West, where they are old. I mean, the elderly ones, when they get to certain ages, that is acceptable. And I don't know, I've never been there, I've not been in that situation, I'm not old. But I think that when you take people who are old and place them in extended family, there's this disconnect from the people that they once loved. It may affect them maybe emotionally as well. We do not want our old people to go through this in Africa. I speak for most African countries. It's not something that we send our old people. But if we continue in this trajectory to stop bonding, it will get to a point where this assistance you have to manage dependent, could be an elderly person, who will not have it, and then we'll get to that place that is not palatable, like what we have in the Western world. I think it works for them, but I don't think it works for us. You don't want to grow old and become lonely. Trust me, it's not something that we want to experience. You don't want to grow old and be isolated. So, yes, we need to encourage more family get-togethers, reunion, and you know, um, doing things together. I, for one, I speak for myself. I like this extended family coming together. I like, everyone system. And that takes me to a post I saw earlier today where we had one celebrity in there saying that in-law families to live their life. To me, that's not African. When your mother-in-law would take permission from you before coming to your house, like it has to be strictly that way. It's not African for me. I would prefer we have an open system where everybody shares with everybody. I think it's better that way. I prefer such bonds. I don't know if coming to your house or before staying with you. I just want to know what you think about it, or how people from Kenya see this.
Yeah, thanks, Eno. I think it's similar. Where now it's before we could just show up. When you want to see somebody, you go to their house, you visit, you land. There's always a cup of tea somewhere that can be put together for you. And it was not never that deep. We'd be able to see each other and visit. This, when I say before, I'm talking about 2 decades ago. When I look at it now, I can't remember really having a lot of spontaneous visitors. I have friends who are close to me who know whenever they're in the area, they can stop by, and some do. But more often than not, it is something that's planned. And please note, it's my friends who will randomly stop by. It's rare for my family to randomly stop by. People will make sure that they call before they come. And we have a lot of conversations of we must plan and do this. A plan does not happen, but we want to plan and do this. Um, yeah, I think when you touched on mother-in-laws and that tradition of the West, where your mother-in-law cannot just arrive. Truthfully, I think definitely it's across the world. There's been stereotypes that have been put in place on what a mother-in-law is and how they are, maybe not the kindest, not the best people. But I don't think it is something that applies to all. It's probably a small margin. And I know in Nigerian tradition, when you have a baby, I think it's your mother-in-law who's supposed to come and stay with you and help you through the beginning of that period for the first few months of having the baby. And that is part of the tradition. We don't have that much in Kenya, but we do have periods where your mother or mother-in-law is supposed to assist with different things like shaving the child's head and all of that. But yeah, when you mentioned it, we've closed our doors. Our doors are not open as they used to be. It's not a porous border anymore. Um, like for me, where I live, nobody can just arrive. By the time you've come through security, they've said somebody is here, then you can pretend not to be home, and then the person goes back. So they know it's also another barrier in terms of if I want to visit this person, I need to make sure that they know I'm coming. Otherwise, I'll get there and I'll be told we've not been given a message you're coming, and our new process begins.
Wasted effort.
So yeah, yes, it's like yeah. Before we didn't live in gated communities, where I mean, they were there, but it's not like they are now. So it was easy. You get to somebody's gate, you hoot, and there'll definitely be a child or a home helper. Somebody will be there who can let you in, and as you wait for whoever it is to get home, you're not just outside. So yeah, times have changed, and those bonds, I miss them. I miss, in fact, knowing where people live. With many times we meet in restaurants, we don't know where our homes are. So there's that as well. Um, but yes, now what we're going to do is I've seen we've gone over our 1 hour. And I think, guys, when I look at you as our audience, the reason we often go over is because the conversation is just juicy and sometimes it's difficult to draw ourselves back. But we'd love your input. So we know there's some of you who are watching live, and there's some of you who are going to watch this talk after it has gone live. At any point, feel free to share your comments, your messages in our comment or chat section. Share your insights and your experiences because they help us to really build and improve on what it is that we're going to talk to you about. Now, this is what we're going to do with this talk. This talk is has layers to it. And so we're going to hold a second talk, right, on this topic. We shall communicate the date of that on our pages. And it's really going to explore the consequences of isolation. We're going to do a deep dive into what does it feel like to be separated from your family, to have those communal bonds weakened. What does it feel like as an individual? Is it something comfortable? Is it something necessary? Is it something heartbreaking? So we're going to go into exploring that. And we'll ask you to keep an eye out on our pages for our poster that will share the date and time. So you definitely come in for the second part of this talk. This time we've explored and really done a deep dive into what is it that is causing these communal bonds to weaken, that could possibly be leading to isolation in our families. Our families are so important. They are part of our identity of who we are. And that's why we want to have this discussion and really get your insights. If you want to join us in our studio and be able to share your points of view more clearly, you're able to send us a DM, put a message in the comments, and we will definitely have you join us in here. And so, for as we get ready to just close for today, I'll ask Eno and Osaro if you have any closing remarks for our audience today. So who'd like to go first? So ladies first. Eno, do you have any closing remarks for our audience today?
Or maybe I should go first if Anna is not ready. All right, yeah, it's been a pleasure doing this with you again today. So thank you very much for those of you who joined us, and for those of you who are gonna listen to this podcast later. You can always leave your comments or shoot us an email or do us a message. We'll be glad to hear from you. And stay tuned for our upcoming episodes. We spend a long time, cooking some things, and just wait until you find out what that is. All right. So thank you very much for joining us and have a good weekend. Bye.
Thanks, Osaro. And Eno, how is your network? Any closing remarks? I see definitely network challenges have gotten their grip today. It sounded like it's raining in Nigeria. So maybe that's it. Either raining or windy. So maybe that's also part of the challenge. Mm. So, oh, sorry, sorry, you're saying something, but you're on mute. Oh, okay. So, to our audience, thank you so much. It's been delightful being back here with you again. And we look forward to our next one. Follow our pages, keep an eye out for us. And yes, let's make the rest of this year a fantastic year of conversations, inspiring society, looking at ways that we can dissect society, inspire change, and just make a difference in our world. So, have a great afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you next time. And remember, sorry, like, subscribe, comment, share. Yes, be with us on this journey. Okay, bye.